All right, peace, power, and love is always in greeting. Welcome to the big picture. It's your boy Melvin, Series Junior. Been working on this one here for a minute, and I finally got it prepared and gonna bring it um, probably in two parts because I really don't want to do just do a long extended video. So I'm going to break this down in two parts. I'm going to be talking about the black family, past, present, and future. Be talking about, got my notes ready today, talking about some of the things that, the black family entailed. Um, and just talking about, the black family. Um, I'll just talk about my family for a moment, typical um, black family here in America. My dad, senior, and mom were married and divorced, and then we moved back to Texas, and we were raised by my mother. And she did a good job. Um, I was blessed enough in my family to have both sets of my great grandparents until I was in my late teens. Um, Rest in peace, R.D. Carr, Ernestine Carr, Jesse Smith, and Mary Ivory Smith, my grandparents. My great grandparents, excuse me. Um, and I got a lot of valuable lessons from them. Our families are not much different from others. We had a struggle and fight to preserve our families, but we did. Um, and even though today we are not as marriage minded, and I'll get into the stats and all that good jazz here in just a few minutes. But um, marriage within our communities and within our culture was a highly valued, excuse me, was a highly valued thing. Family was highly valued within our communities as well. Uh, Blacks in America got the right to marry with the passing of the Civil Rights Act in 1866. And before this, we had no legal right to marry. Prior to that, black marriages were not even recognized. So, if you loved a woman, you could love her, you could marry her, but slaves were not able to promise permanent fidelity because the vows had a built-in asterisk. And this clause was, do you take this man or woman to be your spouse until death or distance? Do you part? And for nearly 250 years, we were considered chattel property, which is simply a person held as legal property of another. And we were not given the right to legally marry in this country until 1866 and the Civil Rights Act. Um, and I just want y'all to think about that for a moment. all the families, you know, that were broken, children taken from their mothers, fathers, taken away from their spouse and their children, mothers taken away from their spouse and their children, sold, chattel property. We were treated as livestock, bought and sold as livestock, bred as livestock. And in some cases, as we all know, even bred with biological mothers and sisters. They were just interested in creating bodies to do work. And our ancestors as well, we loved, we cared, we wanted family, we respected the sanctimony of togetherness, growing old together. My great grandparents on my grandfather's side, I know, were married for some 70 odd years. And that's something that is just completely unheard of in today's day and times. The black family has always been a struggle for us. You know, it's always been a struggle for us here. I want to talk about a couple of things, and then I've got a video that I'm going to play as well, and I'm going to have to get that all set up. But I've got a video that I want to play, and I'll play that when I get, well, that'll probably be in part 2, the video that I want to play, because the second part, I want to kind of cover things that destroyed the black family. Things that played a role in, you know, other than slavery, in keeping the black family apart. In the 1960s, the black marriage rate was 61% among black adults. However, by 2020, 51.4% of black men and 47.5% of black women were never married, compared to 35.6% for black men and 27.7% for black women never being married. And this was in 1970. So now, this study, I looked this up, and a study from August 16, 2020, researchers noted that 29% of black men and women were married, making us the most unmarried ethnic group in America, though most of us want to marry. And right now, in today's times, I believe we only have a 31% marriage rate. And that's almost, half of what we had in 1960. And a lot of things play a role in this. I also want to talk about interracial marriage statistics as well, because this affects the black family. And that's what this particular subject is going to be about. To me, the black family is important, and to me, we have got to get back to our culture and rebuilding and reestablishing the black family to its prominent position. If you just rewind the hands of time and go back to post-slavery. And I was in doing my research, I was just reading, after slavery ended and slaves were so-called free, a lot of the slaves, would search for family members, would go to different plantations. Some family members were sold off too far to travel. But once slavery ended, husbands started looking for wives and children, and wives started looking for husbands and children that had been sold off to these other plantations to try to bring the family back together, because within our culture, and some of us are indigenous to this land, but within our cultures, we have always been tight-knit, very family oriented, very culturally oriented. And those are the things that we need to get back to. The importance of family. I think back to my family, and back when I was, a younger kid, 9, 10, 11, and my grandmother's side of the family, the Carrs, lived in Fort Worth. And I can just remember, during the summer months especially, like just loading up the car on a Saturday morning and riding up to Fort Worth to see my Aunt Mill and Uncle Will, hang out with family, just have good times and enjoy each other's company. We are more of a social people. We feed off of each other's energy. And that's why family is important. And that's why we need to work hard to reestablish the Black family. And let's talk about the divorce rates. And as of, right now in today's times, we have the highest divorce rate at 30.8%. And today, 37% of children live in a home headed by their biological parents, two-parent families, which is also very important. Which is also something that is very important, and we need to work to reestablish two-parent households. I've said this on several occasions. A child needs his mother and his father. I feel like a mother plays a more significant role, because when divorce happens, 9 times out of 10, the child ends up with the mother. As opposed, there are instances, I know a couple of friends of mine, who have their children, who are male, who have their children, So there are circumstances, but the norm, as we all know, the mother usually ends up with the children. And that is not to say that the father is not needed, because the father is still going to be needed. And this is what we have to understand as adults. We can't use our children as pawns. A father deserves just as much time with the child as the mother. I think equal time needs to be established, or as close to equal as you can get it, because A child is going to need a father's stern, forceful input, as well as a mother's more subtle input and nurturing input. A father is, I'm a father. I love my children. I don't love my children as a mother loves a child. A father's love is different from a mother's love. A father's love is more direct. A mother's love is more in a compassionate, nurturing way. And we need both of these to have a balanced child, because the children are the ones who truly suffer when a husband and a wife part ways. You know, we sometimes selfishly and without good reason divorce, and we have affected children by this. And what we really have to do as parents is to make sure that the child is okay. We've got to definitely take care of the child's mental state of mind, and let that child know that it was nothing, because sometimes a lot of children will think it's something they did to cause a divorce, and I don't know of any cases that a child, you know, has caused a divorce. Let's see here. Where am I at? Today, 37% of children, live in a household headed by their biological parents, and 37% is, that's a low number. Sometimes I feel like we as the adults in marriage and in family situations, we as adults don't try hard enough. And sometimes we allow the smallest thing to be the breaking point. And I think that we as the adults need to work harder to preserve our families. 48% of our children are living in single parent homes. 48%. And that's almost 50% of our children who are living in single parent homes. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with single parent homes, and I'm not saying that you can't raise a productive child in a single parent home. I'm an example. Before my mother got remarried. But we have to hold on to the sanctity of family and the sanctity of marriage, and understand the seriousness of the vows and that commitment that you are making. A lot of times, and you cannot tell me any different, there were a lot of times in the past that our ancestors had problems, but our ancestors didn't seek divorce for the answer. That wasn't their first direction. Black folks, our ancestors appreciated marriage and worked through very difficult times. Situations happen. You may step out, you may have a child outside the marriage. But back in those days, those types of things were frowned upon. But those types of things did not necessarily mean we're getting a divorce. Families worked through very difficult situations. And I can just imagine with my great-grandparents being married 70 some odd years, you had better know that there were some situations and circumstances along the road that caused much friction. But 70 something years, you tough that out, you fix that, you swallow your pride, and your ego has no place in marriage, has no place in family. A family should be a unit. And if one person, I'm going to say it like this: the man is the lead, but one person should not be responsible for making all the calls, because then that's going to leave the other person feeling left out. And we have to learn to be team players as families and in marriages in order to make them work. Now, I've been married twice, uh, and I'm willing to try it again. Uh, my first two marriages, and no disrespect to my first two wives, were just not the right connection. Uh, I am not one to walk away. I really appreciated my marriages, and I wanted them to work, and I tried to do things that I thought would make a difference. But sometimes, in relationships, there's just no going back. Now, I didn't think in my second marriage that the circumstances warranted divorce, but some things, certain things happen. But I have no ill will, or nor do I harbor any harsh feelings, for either of my first two wives. You grow and you move past that. 4% of our children are living in a step family with one biological family member and step parent. And this information I got from Current Population Survey, and this was done on June 17th of 2021. 4%. And there are several step families within this country. And I don't find anything wrong with a step family. I think a step family can be just as productive as a biological family. It's all about communication and how you do things, and just understanding the concept of family. 13% of those children live with a mother who is divorced or separated. 31% of these single household children live with a mother who has never married. And 73% of our children, and this is the statistic that really kind of blowed my mind, but I kind of knew this, but 73% of our children are born out of wedlock. Now, let's talk about that. And I'm not exempt. I mean, I've had children out of wedlock, and I don't feel guilty about it, but the thing that I regret is just not being able to be around those children more. I have always wanted to get married, because I grew up watching my granddad. And to me, he was just the epitome of a good man. And I know that he was not perfect, but I considered him a good man. And I try to pattern myself after him. And I wanted to get married, have children, watch my children grow up and get them out of the house, and then me and my wife can run around and do the things that we want to do in empty as empty nesters. But unfortunately, I never, got there. But you still have to be involved. And I am one, I lost my oldest son tragically in 2008. So I value my children tremendously. I don't think I could survive losing another child. And I love my children dearly. Even though I'm not with them 24/7, my time is always available. And that's something too, brothers, that I want to say. Sometimes with children, it's not always about the money. With children, it's about the time that you spend with them. Your child wants to see you, wants to know you. It's not so much about, in a child's mind, what you do for them. It's how you do with them. And with that being said, I've co-parented out of the house, with my children, and my daughter's grown now. So I still have one son that's a teenager. But all my other children are grown, but I still connect with them. As men, we sometimes forget. I think some of our men forget they even had kids. And I'm like this. After being in my kids' life the way I have been in my children's life, I can't imagine not being in their lives at all. And I want to say this to you, brothers. Your child needs you. From the time he's a baby all the way up until he's an adult, your child still needs. Your child still needs a relationship with you, black man. So don't exclude yourself from your children. Reach out to your children. Stay connected with your children. Your children are the most valuable thing. Our children are the most valuable things we possess. So make sure that you keep that constant connection. Don't be that father that comes into your children's life after they're grown. And you don't even know them. They don't even know you. Be the kind of father that reaches out to your children. See how you call them. See how they're doing. Hey, how you doing? Just calling to holler at you for a minute. That's 5 minutes. Try to do, and I'm not the best at it. But I contact and try to connect with my children. I don't think it is my child's job to always have to call me. I'm the adult. I'm the one that made them. So it's my job to stay connected with my children. It can't all be on them for us to have a relationship. No, that's up to me. That also is up to me. Whether we have a growing, thriving relationship or we don't. And some fathers are just absentee, won't call, won't. It's just, I know I got kids out there. And I just, being a father, cannot imagine not reaching out, communicating, connecting with my children, because I love them. You know, I made them. So I'm not going to ignore them and act as if they don't exist. And so many of our black men do this. I know some people who do this. Don't connect with their children. And then when that child becomes, a high schooler and he's playing sports, he's good. Everybody, okay, yeah, that's my son. Yeah, that's my child. Okay, then you want, okay. But see, some men exile themselves from their children and then are confused as to why their children don't mess with them. So, I mean, as black men, we have got to be good fathers. We have got to be communicative fathers. Our children need us just as well as they need the mother. Gotta have that balance. And a lot of our families suffer in this way because we don't have that balance. And then we have the absenteeism of the father. And that's something that I said I would never do to my children, is act as if they didn't exist. I wanted my children to know me, not just know, hey, my daddy's name is Melvin Seary Jr. No, I want them to know who Melvin Seary Jr. is. That's important. That is very important for a child to honestly know who their dad is. And I always tell my children, I'm working hard right now to leave them something that they can nurture and continue growing and pass it down to their children, and so on and so on. And this is what we have to get back to as black men. We have to get back to being the true leader of our families and of our communities as well. We need strong black men to take the reins once again and to guide and lead in truth and righteousness. It's just that simple. And family is important. We have got to get back to family. We have got to get back to our culture, our way of doing things. Okay, that's two-parent families. Now, I wanted to talk about something else that affects the black family. And I wasn't surprised in my findings in this either. I pretty much knew, what the stats were. But let's talk about interracial marriage. Let's talk about interracial marriage, because that's something else that, depletes and keeps the black family from being. And significant percentage of black men marry white women. A significant number. And this is often cited as one of the causes of lower marriage rates among black women. This, however, is only partially true. While black men marry white women at twice the rate that black women marry white men, in 2021, only 15% of married black men were married to non-black women, which didn't change from 2017, but up from the 11% in 2010 and 8% in 2000. About 8% of married black men were married to white women in 2021, and 4% were married to Hispanic, and the remaining were married to other. And there was evidence of an increase in black men marrying out of their racial demographic between 2010 and 2017. However, that racial demographic, that percentage remained steady since. In fact, this comes from Pew Research Center They released a report finding that 25% of black male newlyweds in 2013 married non-black compared to 12% of black women who married out. However, Asian women, Native Americans still have higher rates of interracial marriage. Black women were the least likely, excuse me, black women were the least likely to marry non-black men at only 7% in 2017. And only 4% of that 7 were married to white men. The other 3% married to other. So that's another factor, that I won't say pulls apart the black family, but disrupts, the black family. I don't have anything against the interracial dating at all. I am just more about black love, pure black love. And that's just my preference. That's me, my opinion, and how I see things. But, to each his own. But these are things that affect us culturally, and then, we wonder why. Just so many things. And we as black men and black women are so divisive against one another. And I've heard some brothers say, oh yeah, I'm not going to marry no sisters because of the mouth and the attitude or whatever. Well, there are mouths and attitudes in every ethnicity. Sometimes we find the most petty of things to make our decisions on. We have got to do more to stay together as opposed to breaking apart. And we truly, as black people here in America, cannot afford to be broken apart any more than we already have been and are. So I'll just say this about the black family. The black family is important. The black family is what builds community. The black family is what shows our children what it is to be a good husband, what it is to be a good wife. The black family, shows you, we can show through the black marriage, we can show our children how to work through problems, how to communicate effectively. These are things that we have got to get right in order for our children to get it right. We cannot expect our children to have knowledge of things when we don't give them the proper tools. And that is something that we have to do as men and adult men and women. We have to give our children the proper tools. We have to show them how to live. We have to prove to them the importance of the black family by simply living the life of a black family through the ups and the downs. We can't let, like I say, the smallest and pettiest of things continue to pull us apart and leave our children in dire circumstances. We have to use what we got to get what we want. And we can rebuild the black family. The black family is not dead. The black family is just missing at this moment. You know, we have really got to understand our need for each other, and not only our need for one another, we have definitely too got to understand the power that we possess within one another. The power of the black family. You know, the power of the black family produces productive children. A child that comes from a two-parent home is more likely to succeed. It's just a proven fact, because he has saw functionality at work. He has saw problems at work. He has saw communication at work. He has saw bill paying at work. He has saw the work ethic of his parents at work. And see, these are things that our children need to see and need to experience. And they need to see a mother and a father that are truly loving towards one another. Because when we're loving towards one another, that child receives that love, and then he exudes that love moving forward in life. See, these are the things that we have to show them in order for them to be productive and successful in their lives, in their careers, in their marriages, in their parentage, all of that. So the black family is very important, and it is so sad how the black family was destroyed through slavery, through so many other welfare, incarceration. And that's what I'm going to talk about on the next video. On part 2, I want to talk about the things that somewhat destroyed the black family. And I will cover that in part 2. There are several things, you know, that caused the black family to be destroyed. Some by our own doing, and some systematically. But through that all, we are still here. And as long as we are here, we have an opportunity to get it right. So let's work on getting it right. Let's work on rebranding us. Let's work on rebuilding us. Let's work on the black family so that our children can see what functionality truly looks like, what black love looks like, what black success looks like. We owe that not only to ourselves, but to our children. So I'm gonna close this one out, and I appreciate you all. I appreciate you all who have subscribed and liked and who are sharing. And if you're liking the content, you know, smash up the likes, share, subscribe. There's definitely going to be a lot more content to come. I'm going to close this out. The Black Family, Past, Present, and Future, Part 1. I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope you got some knowledge from it. And also, you know, leave comments. I do go back and look at the comments, and I'll, you know, converse back and forth until I can get on this live platform. But yeah, I definitely want to be interactive with the followers and with the subscribers, with the people. This is what this is all about. This is for us to have places where we can talk and discuss our issues. You know, we got to talk about this. If we don't talk about this, we cannot fix it. So I hope y'all will like, share this video. Like I say, you have a comment, leave your comments. I do check them. And I will be back with part 2. I appreciate y'all checking this one out. Like I always say in closing, let's plan, let's organize, let's unify, because we all have a key right here and right here. I love y'all. I'm out. Peace, power, and love.